Yes, people, welcome back to the Oniaya and welcome back to the Big Game Theory. Yes, people, this is the show where we break down the biggest game for the week. So we bring you a game from La Liga, the Premier League, the Bundesliga. We bring you just around Europe. We bring you the biggest game from around Europe and we just give you a breakdown of what we thought about it, what the managers said, watching the game or review or tactical analysis, everything on the Big Game Theory. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the page so we can continue bringing you great content going forward. Now let's jump straight into it. Let us just for 1 second congratulate PSG for the wonderful work they have done for the year as professional footballers. You know, these guys could have won 6 trophies in the year. And I don't think no one's speaking about it. You know, if this was a Premier League team like Liverpool, Manchester United, City, any team in the Premier League, the media would be all over this. But because it's PSG, they try to talk about money. They try to just push it under the table. But Luis Enrique, first of all, no one gave him any sort of, no one thought he would have done what he did at PSG. Especially after he got rid of Kylian Mbappe. He was like, listen, I can win without Mbappe. And little did we know, he did not only win, but he's been winning without Mbappe. And what PSG is doing now, I don't think Real Madrid will do with Mbappe within the next 2 or 3 years. I think they will have a period with Mbappe where they will be good, no doubt. But do I think they will be ever do what PSG is doing right now with Mbappe? That is a story we'll have to have another discussion on another day. What I do know is, though, PSG is a high-level football team operating right now, and a lot of people are taking this for a joke. Now, for instance, look at the game today. They're 2-0 behind. They've only had 6 days to prepare this game. 6 days. They've been in training for less than a week. You have Tottenham, who has been training for over 6 weeks. And look at the quality and disparity in which PSG showed. You know, when you look at the game, even with what Luis Enrique said when he was like, oh, Tottenham deserve to win the game, Tottenham deserve all these things. He's just saying that because he's talking about how long they had to train, how many weeks and how many days PSG had to train. He wasn't really talking about how good Tottenham was. You know, he tried to slip in that, oh yeah, they were the better team for 80 minutes. But for the last 10, my team understood why we cannot lose this game. So, you know, he's giving Tottenham their props because, you know, he understands the magnitude of the game, where the manager is. He also respects the club because Tottenham actually wanted to give him a chance when he was still the coach of Spain. So, there is a lot of things that happened between him and Tottenham, why he gave a lot of respect, one, to Thomas Frank as a new manager at a new club. You can tell the way he spoke about it. He's trying to not put too much pressure on Thomas Frank because he, as a manager, has been where Thomas Frank is. And 2, you can also tell that he was just trying to make sure that he kept his team level-headed because he know that they're going into a season where everyone wants to beat them and he wants to keep winning. This guy wants to keep winning. And I like to see Luis Enrique in this sort of mood because he's teaching us that with humility, with hard work, with belief in yourself, you can achieve a lot. And with that, PSG have a big task at hand to become champions again this season. Now, do I think that's possible? There is a massive chance they do it again. Bro, they had 6 days and look at the performance they pull out. Imagine them on a run again with like 20, 30 games on their belt. This team is going to be a problem for a lot of people. And what if they strengthen, because they should be losing Gonzalo Ramos, right? Which means they could bring in another forward. And he scored today, so if he doesn't leave, they have a top striker just sitting on the bench. They still have Dembele. But also, they still can bring in another top striker. Now also, there's a myth that people say you need a big squad. PSG don't really have a big squad now. I mean, they don't need it because of the league they play in. It's not as demanding as the other leagues. Yes, they do have quality teams like Marseille, like Lyon, like PSG, of course, like Lille. Some of these teams bring out top players, and some of these teams are good teams. But in terms of every week, the high intensity, that doesn't happen in the French league. So they don't really need a big squad. If you realize, Edoui, he either plays in the midfield sometimes or he plays as a winger. You have maybe 4 attacking players, and that's it really. They only have one midfielder that they actually rotate in and out their midfield, which is Emery. And other than that, they keep that same 3 in midfield for most of the game. The back 4 stays the same most times. So this team doesn't really rotate much. So when people talk about you need a big squad and all this, usually as a coach, you want a squad, yes, for training, to push other players in case players get injured. But in terms of having a small squad and a set amount of players that usually play most of your games, that's what's happening right now. They probably have, I would say, 15 to 16 players that play every game. It's the same with Pep Guardiola. Man City, people talk about they have this big squad. But when Man City was winning all these leagues, their squad was small. Pep was making 2-3 subs a game, max. The changes in his team was like 3 or 4 max. There was a lot of players not playing in that season even when they won the treble. Look at Calvin Phillips and all these players that they brought in just for training bodies. It had nothing to do with them playing in that squad. And it continuously happens at a lot of teams. If you look at Arsenal don't rotate much. When you really think about Arsenal team, Arsenal don't rotate much. Arteta does not rotate much. And that is why I would say that Luis Enrique is a high-level coach. And this is why I would say he understands exactly what he's doing, how to manage his team, what he's doing with his team. And PSG is going to be a problem for teams for a very long time. Not talking about coaches and PSG and very long time. This manager, I don't think is going to be in his job for a very long time. And I know I've just only watched a few games for Spurs, but it's either 2 things need to happen for Tottenham. They either go buy some players that fit this man's system, or they're going to have to sack Thomas Frank very soon. Now, the delusion that people will come out and say that Spurs was great today because they had PSG 2-0 down. Lads, they had 6 weeks to prepare basically for a final, while another team had 6 days to prepare. And I understand that they're under a new manager. And I understand all these mitigating circumstances towards Spurs and how they play and why they're and they came 16th in the league. All this yada 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 yada. But at the end of the day, they bought players in the window. They bought players in January. They've been not performing well. And today, they did not look any way cohesive in terms of going forward. Defensively, yes, it's easy to put a back 5 on the field and sit in and have a structure and be very defensive. It's very different the way Thomas Frank plays that 5 in the back compared to, say, Amorim, who really and truly, usually, each and every one of his 3 centre-backs are playing one-on-one. They are either marking the wingers or they're marking the striker. They are playing one-on-one usually, especially when a team plays 4-3-3. So, Thomas Frank this defensive way in which he had Tottenham set up today, the quality of players that he has, one can't work as hard in this system. You know, these players have been struggling with injuries over the last 2 seasons because they try to play a very high intensified football. Now you have a manager usually who plays this high rock and roll style football, they call it. But today, watching the game, it was not that at all. It was very, very defensive. I don't know if it's because it's the beginning of this structure. He's trying to work on structuring the team defensively, or trying to see if he can find a way of playing other than just having a back four. But when you have so much quality and players that, let's be honest, Spurs isn't technically bad. Spurs is a team that have some quality players, but I just don't think they fit into Thomas Frank way of playing. Now, think about it. He's playing with a front two with Kudus and Richarlison. There's no goals in that. Kudus can run at players, Richarlison can run at players. But those guys aren't no prolific goal scorers. It's not a Brian Mbeumo and an Ivan Toney or a Wizard. You understand? It's not that. It's not a Ollie Watkins. It's not that. It's a bunch of young strikers who are not, they are just really good football players. They are not clinical. Kudus doesn't give you 20 goals a season. He's never been that player. You know, Kudus at Ajax used to play as a central attacking midfielder sometimes, as a right central midfielder sometimes, and as a right winger. You know, so we have to be very careful with the expectations that we give Tottenham this season, because we either going to watch Thomas Frank lose his job if they don't bring in quality players. You could see they have a creativity problem today. That's why Jack Grealish would have helped them solve a lot of issues. But Jack Grealish don't want to go to a team like Tottenham, who is also in an environment where if they lose, they're going to blame Jack. You know, if Everton lose, people understand it's Everton. So he can go about his games week in, week out without worrying about everything. But when you have Tottenham now, which is a big club, Champions League football, week in, week out, you're playing 2 times a week, you give the media more time to target you, and you give yourself more time to be a target for the media. So I understand why he made the move why he didn't go to Spurs. But them losing James Maddison, they're going to have to do something. You know, Matthias Tell, they just bought him. He looks lost in this system. This 2-player system, he has to find a way to find a balance to get the best out of his players. He can't expect players who are accustomed of going and doing things such as attacking players, running at players, being the man who create that chance and not being at the end of the chance, to now be the players to be at the end of the chance. It's impossible. You can't have people who are accustomed to carry a water gun to then give them proper Glocks and ammunition to fire. They never done it before. So even if you show them how to use the gun, the mere fact that they can't use, they never use a real gun, the recoil, the kickback, all these things involved with shooting a real gun, they would not have an idea of what's going on. So I just don't think that Thomas Frank, one, is setting up himself for the best possible way in which Spurs can play. And with that, you already know how Daniel Levy is. He isn't having it. If this guy isn't having a good season, he's not going to make what happened with Ange Postecoglou continue for a long period of time. He don't really have that wave away with the fans and the players to do something so crazy. You know, a lot of fans are already not happy with the appointment of Thomas Frank. They thought they could have gone after another massive manager. I don't know why they didn't go after I would try to poach a Unai Emery or something like that from Aston Villa. But I understand the Thomas Frank look. I understand what they're trying to do. A manager, give him a chance. He have a structure. He's done well in the Premier League. And he can do well with Spurs if he gets the players that he wants. You know, seeing Norgard go to Arsenal, Spurs should have actually gone after Norgard. A player like that would have really helped Spurs become a better team. And also, he would have fit into that system so much better because he gives them that drive, that energy. Something that, yes, Bentancur have quality, but he don't have that level of energy. That's why Papa Sarr in this system is good. But then you see him drifting in as a centre-back a lot. And then, again, him struggling in the middle of the pitch because he doesn't understand his role as a player in this system. Now they need time as a team, don't get me wrong, to understand the system. But I'm just saying, a lot of these players are going to struggle in this system because this system demands a lot of running, a lot of energy. And as we have seen over the last 2 seasons, Tottenham has struggled a lot with injuries because of the high-intensity football they've been trying to play. So let us see what Thomas Frank does and let us see what happens with Spurs at the end of the season. I won't tell you where I believe they're going to finish because I'm going to leave that for my preview. But I'm just letting you know that, let me just put it out there that, let's just say, I don't think they're going to come in the top 4. Yes, people, it's been your boy Yaya, just bringing you again another big game theory. This is the show, as I said, where we break down the game of the week. So as we've done for the Super Cup this time. And we'll keep bringing you this great content. We'll keep breaking down the best game for the week in any league. It could be the Champions, La Liga, EPL, Bundesliga, Italia, all over Europe. As long as that's the big game for the week, no bias, we bring you detail, manager breakdown, and everything. Yes, people, always remember it's been your boy, and this is the page for you for tactical analysis and where controversy meets reason. Take care and have a good time. Ciao.